Fantastic. So welcome everybody. My name is Isaac Longobardi. I'm the director of the Moving Forward Nursing Home Quality Coalition. I'm joined today by Alice Bonner, our chair, and Mairead Painter, who leads our resident council project in Connecticut, which we're excited to give some sneak peeks on today. This is a little bit of a long time in coming. We had some technical issues, as some of you may have been part of, with our previous celebration of 2 years of moving forward. And so we had to reschedule. So this is the rescheduling. We're really excited to be getting the chance to share some of the amazing resources and progress and action that came out of our first 2 years of the Moving Forward Coalition. For some of you, this stuff will look old because you've spent time on our website or you've talked to us. But for some of you, we hope this is really helpful and new and will give you a sense of what we have to offer, what we've been working on, and how you can share that out with colleagues across the field and beyond. So we're going to start by just doing basically a deep dive into our progress, sharing the current iteration of our website and taking action page with you. And then hopefully we'll leave 20 minutes for questions from you, comments, ideas, and further discussion. But before we kick it off, Alice, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
I am just thrilled to be watching the people coming on and joining this call. For some of you, when you appear on the screen, it just gets me right here because we've spent the last 2 years working together, and I think we've just accomplished an amazing amount. The other thing is I see some new faces as well, and some organizations we have not had represented quite as much on some of these calls. So I just want to say, it's great that people are chatting in where they're from and who they are, and feel free, again, to comment, as Isaac said, at any point during the call. We have a number of people who are leading geriatric workforce enhancement programs, the GWEPs, and I see we have American Geriatric Society, which is also administering the GWEP Coordinating Center. So welcome to all of those folks. In particular, welcome to our QIO colleagues. I see that the Dignity Alliance is on. We have nursing home residents who represent residents on our steering committee. We have life enrichment professionals. I could take up the whole call just listing all of you, so I won't do that. But I just want to say a heartfelt thank you from Isaac, myself, and our entire team. Before Isaac and I start to talk about this, and again, we've really designed this today to be very much a conversation, so we've got time set aside for you all to speak with us. But Jane Carmody, our senior program officer, is on from the John A. Hartford Foundation. And Jane, I just want to give you an opportunity to say a welcome to the group today.
Well, thank you for unmuting me. I appreciate it. I was going to say, I have attended so many meetings with Alice and so appreciate her leadership as well as Isaac's. And so that's how I knew what to put my name in. So I really wasn't ahead of you there, Alice. Oh, I just can't. I'm like you, Alice, you're just so overwhelmed and appreciative of all of the hard work of this group and those attending to listen in, and congratulations on 2 amazing years. And the reason I'm saying that too is because I have to present the outcomes, the evaluation of this work to our board on September 11th or 12th, one of those days. And so it's so great for me when I go through and we're figuring out and presenting all of the great work. It's really amazing. One of the things we said on our evaluation, Alice, was that you accomplished more than you said you would, and more that you thought possible even. I mean, when you just think about it from an idea. I just also talked with the National Academies team who did the original study, and it's one of the most popular products, the studies they've ever had, over 12,000 something downloads, and it's in the top 1% of the National Academies press. So congratulations, and it's because of this great work that more downloads are coming, and I appreciate being here, and thank you so much, all of you, and especially Isaac and Alice. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jane. And we wouldn't be here without the people on this call. I mean, again, we all recognize the folks who've contributed, and it's pretty much everyone here. I'm so glad you mentioned the NASEM report, the National Academy's report, which, as people probably know, is called, the National Imperative to Improve Nursing Home Quality. And the whole purpose of our first 2 years was to create an infrastructure where we could address that 600-page report and really prioritize actions that we could start taking now. So Isaac, do you have any other questions to sort of kick off the conversation before I start to review some of the things that we've done?
Oh, that's so amazing that this report is so high up in the list of read NASEM report, and I think just a testament to what everybody on this call has been doing to get the word out. I think I only downloaded it 11,800 times, so that means at least 200 other people read this. Without further ado, the way we'll structure this call is mostly through Q&A. So I'll pitch some questions to Alice and Mairead, and
softball questions, right? Just softballs.
Just softballs, exactly, and that will kind of guide us through the work that we've done. So Alice, I'll start with an easy one, which is for folks on this call who are new to the work. Can you describe what the coalition has been up to since July 2022? What have we been doing since that NASEM report was published?
Well, I think, Jane teed it up for us, and I was beginning to talk about it, which is, a 600-page report full of amazing recommendations from lots of national experts and advisors and people all around the country, nursing home residents, CNAs, certified nursing assistants, and many others. But, people were afraid it was just going to sort of sit on a shelf. So the John A. Hartford Foundation generously funded 2 years for us to bring together as many organizations as we could that were really going to focus on improving the lives, the quality of life for people who are living in nursing homes. And so again, the report was, the people who created our committees, and we have many co-chairs on this call right now, and work group leaders. They took the report, and everybody sort of dove in and looked to see what was in it, and then said, what could we prioritize in terms of action plans? And, the action plans had to be feasible. They had to be collaborative. They had to have integrity and be inclusive, and all of those fundamental values that we promote. And I'm, happy to say you guys put together these 9 action plans and really started to do the work on them. So this was, 2 years of starting by building an infrastructure and building this coalition. We didn't have anything when we started. We had a lot of relationships. Some of us, like myself, have been doing this for 40 years, and some people are much newer to this space. But we brought together, 1,600 people have signed up as participants on the website. And a lot of those people have offered to do something, and some of them are on this call. And then some of them became committee members or work group, members as well. I mentioned a lot of the groups that are on this call today. In addition, they're out. Jane's holding up a. What were you holding up something for us to see? Oh, she can't unmute, I don't think. But there's a lot of advocacy organizations.
I'm taking a picture, Alice, because
you're taking a picture. Okay, we love that. Well, thank you, Jade. There's advocates, and on calls like this, if you look around, we have authors, we have book authors, we have geriatricians, we have people who lead national nursing and state nursing organizations, and many others. So one of the things that I think, we've done that I think has had the biggest impact is actually bringing together, groups like this, where we might have very divergent views on some things. We might not agree on everything. We've been intentional in bringing together people who do have diverse perspectives and ideas, because we want the conversations to really happen, and we don't want to shy away from controversy. We don't do lobbying, as people who've been with us for a long time know. That's not in our scope, but we do bring policy issues forward, and we'll talk more about some of that. So I think an inclusive and open environment where people can come and trust one another, trust their colleagues, have a fair and genuine conversation. I think all of that can lead to meaningful action and has led to meaningful action. We also have a lot of researchers and clinicians on these calls. So I think we've built a name and a reputation as the Moving Forward Coalition. It is always, for me, I really like it when a legislator, someone in Congress or someone in a state legislature reaches out and says, a few of our advisors told us we should contact the Moving Forward Coalition and find out what you all think about some of these issues. To me, that means we're getting there. Doesn't mean everyone in Congress calls us every day, no, but we have had some of these conversations, and I think that's another one of the ways that we've had meaningful impact. So those are a couple of things. And then the third thing that I'll say is we've really tried to amplify the voice of nursing home residents. We've tried to ensure that, again, we have Jeanette, who's here today with us, who's been a member of our steering committee. I don't think she's missed a single meeting, which is phenomenal. She's been a voice for us in front of the state legislature, in front of, federal and state groups. And just hearing directly from nursing home residents is something that we hold very dear. And I know a lot of you do as well. And we want to do more of that as we go into the future. It's been one of the fundamental tenets of this group. And we want to do more of that. And I'll also say another critical component of our work has been amplifying the voice of certified nursing assistants or CNAs and other direct care workers, nurses who work directly with residents, social workers, pharmacists, and others, because again, those voices are really, really important, especially people like CNAs who spend the greatest number of hours every day with nursing home residents. So those are just some of the things that come to mind, Isaac, right off the top of my head. Those are the things I think about, and I'll turn it over to you to see if you want to add anything to that sort of high level list of things.
That's terrific. And I'm wondering if you could describe a little more about our process over the last 2 years. How did we move from a set of 30 NASM recommendations that were pretty high level, pretty visionary, to concrete actions, which we'll talk about on this call?
Yeah. So again, I would say that work was done by a lot of people who we see on our screen right now. And, the overview of, these recommendations and the content in the NASM report, I think the committees had really robust discussions about which of the things to prioritize. It was very hard in some cases because there were so many things, and a lot of the discussions, and people might want to chime in and comment on this, but a lot of the discussions people had were saying, these are all important. How are we going to choose? And so, one of the things we did in the beginning is we worked with the steering committee. And again, Jeanette is a member of the steering committee on this call, Chris Laxton, there's a number of other people on this call who are on the steering committee, but that group helped us to formulate some processes that we actually wrote out, and we standardized some of the ways that the committees could approach making those decisions. And it wasn't like, you must do it this way. No, it was just a guide. And anybody who was part of those committees can certainly, chat in their thoughts. But I think that was a lot of the really hard work, was really in the beginning, figuring out the priorities, setting the goals, and being able to say, these are all the things we're not going to do. I think it took a lot of discipline, but I think it was really effective for us to not to try to do too many things, because then you don't get anything done. It's just overwhelming. So I do think we accomplished a few really good core outcomes. And again, we're gonna go through those and show you all on the website on the Taking Action page in a couple of minutes. But I think that's a really good question that Isaac asked. And it also lets us know what there is left to do, which is a lot. There is a lot left to do going forward. And again, we've prioritized for the next 3 years where we want to focus our efforts and where else we want to think about co-funding. And Isaac and myself and many of you on this call work with us to think through, where are there other foundations, philanthropy, government programs, state grants, federal grants, and, how can we put those things together in a way that will allow us to continue to work on as many of these, core areas as possible. Also, I don't know, did I, if I mentioned the long-term care ombudsman program, but I'm just watching the chat, and we're going to talk a lot about the long-term care ombudsman program. They've also been a really strong partner. So back to you, Isaac.
Thank you. So speaking of long-term care ombudsman, Mairead, I wanted to ask if maybe you could share a little bit of your experience being on a committee from really the very start. What was it like? What were some of the challenges? What made it fun or promising or exciting? What was your perspective?
And thanks everybody for being here. I was thrilled to be able to be a part of the Moving Forward Coalition and part of this work. Although it was twofold. It was challenging in some ways, but also revitalizing. I said multiple times on the meetings, by the end of the meeting, I was so rejuvenated, ready to go out and work in a different way, try things. Although some challenging conversations came up, right? We're talking about topics related to residents, related to our care partners that were challenging, especially coming out of COVID. And so I think having this opportunity to come together with stakeholders and doing with instead of for, really intentionally ensuring that there were residents a part of our groups. So Jeanette is on here, and Jeanette is actually on my resident board here in Connecticut and helps oversee my legislation and the things that I bring forward. So it's really important to me that we had residents working with us and giving us input throughout the project. And it wasn't something we just presented to them in the end and said, look what we did for you. So for that reason, also the stakeholders, we had such a variety of people coming from different backgrounds, different experiences that, again, in a safe way, sometimes we're able to say, no, that doesn't really work, or we've tried that and this was our experience. And so it really did give us the opportunity to have this wealth of knowledge in these meetings and talk about things that we wanted to, no pun intended, move forward. And in some ways it was a little frustrating, I'll be honest with you, because we could see what could be done and those next steps that we've talked about taking and where we could bring the industry. And when Alice was talking, I was trying to calculate how long I've been working in the industry, and it's 30 years, and I don't believe I can even say that. Where does time go? But, where we have come and how things have developed and just the opportunity that we have from here and from all of you being here and partnering, coming from an ombudsman program, that's really our goal. Our goal is to help support residents to have their best quality of life in a dignified way and to amplify their voices. And that's all I heard throughout my experience with our committee. I really feel like we were all well aligned there, although we may have had different ideas about how to get there and what we saw as next steps. I was really thrilled to be surrounded by people who were like-minded. So back to you. That'd be what I would got out of it.
I want to just tag on to what all those great things Mairead said, that, we've had a lot of different organizations come together. And I hope I wanted to really emphasize the partnerships. I see we have at least 3 of our partners from the state of Michigan on the call who are working on a separate, funded initiative that's kind of linked to the National Moving Forward work. But, they include representing the Michigan State Ombudsman Program, for example. And there's other ombudsmen from Virginia and other places on this call. We also have, I see Doug Pace from the Alzheimer's Association, a national professional association with a very specific mission, but they've been part of this, and many of you have brought that. We have GAPNA representation on this call and others. So just for all of you who are coming, both as an individual, as a person who has an interest in improving the lives of people who live in nursing homes and improving the work life of people who work in nursing homes, we really value what you bring, and that's what makes this coalition powerful. It's not us doing the back the back room work. That's we try, but it's really about everything that you guys bring. So Isaac, back to you.
So last question before we share some of the specific items that have come out of this work over the last 2 years. And that's, I think in this, and folks on this call will probably agree that this field of nursing homes has gained a reputation for contention, especially in the long tail of the COVID crisis. There's a sense that resident advocates and provider advocates and workforce advocates may be all on different sides and not able to work together in the way we might hope. And I'm wondering if you, Alice and Mairead, and others too, might have any reflections on how the coalition has or maybe hasn't fully cut through that gridlock or tension. Thoughts?
That's the $1 million question you asked, Isaac. And again, I'm one of the people on this call, one of many, who've been working in nursing homes since I was 19, so a long time. And I think it really is challenging. It's sometimes challenging to be able to find and then promote the voice of people who are working in nursing homes where there's a lot of best practices, where things are going really well, and they've worked hard to continuously improve quality. But those homes are out there, and some of them are part of the coalition, and that's been really helpful. I also think it's really important to be able to continue to differentiate and to know when homes are delivering high quality and quality of life and when they're not. And I think the conversation needs to keep happening, even though that's a really hard conversation to have sometimes. But we strive in this group to bring all voices together and to make sure that we have representation from nursing homes, not-for-profit, for-profit, across the spectrum, across the country, and from people who work in the nursing homes, and also absolutely people who live there, and care partners. There's a lot more over the last couple of years. There's been a focus by the administration and others on family caregivers and caregiving in the community. And, people who live in nursing homes have care partners too. So a lot more we can do with that. But Mairead, what would you say in terms of the image of nursing homes?
And especially working together on something like this, right? The word stakeholder is really important because we all have a stake in the game. If we don't work together, we don't always have to see eye to eye, and we don't. But if we don't all see that we have a stake in the game to have outcomes in a meaningful way that are positive for the people we are all trying to serve, we're not going to get anywhere, right? You just chase your tail. And I'm extremely fortunate here in Connecticut, both of our associations, Mag Morelli at Leading Age and Matt Barrett for the American Healthcare Association, they will tell you we don't see eye to eye all the time, but I know that at any point I can call or email them, they get right back to me, and we have a respectful relationship where I can tell them what I see, how I'm seeing it, and they can come back and give me a difference of opinion. You have to have that balance, I think, and the ability to treat people with respect and dignity in order to get anywhere. And I'm sure Jeanette would say too, when our residents have invited them, we have our annual Voices Forum. They come and they want to hear directly from the residents about their experience in the homes that they're supporting. Mag just joined.
I was just going to say, you said her name and she appeared.
That's kind of funny. Mag didn't even get to hear me just talking about her. But they're on things like this, right? So they partner in a way that I think is critical in order for your state to be able to move forward. And if you don't have those partnerships with stakeholders, with resident groups, family groups, right? We have a statewide family council who are very vocal as well. And they speak directly to the associations. So if you don't have those partnerships in your state and then them supporting you on a national level, again, you're not always going to agree, but to work together to find that alignment and to push the industry as a whole forward, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think for that reason, it might be a little bit, I would say, easier for me here in Connecticut because we're able to have those ongoing conversations. And that was something I found in this group too. The people who came to these meetings, the people who wanted to participate, were people who maybe had differences of opinion, but absolutely wanted to come together because they saw the state of long-term care across the country needing to be shored up, and that we're going to need nursing homes. We need high quality nursing homes. And I will say here in our state, the one thing I think we've seen since COVID is that accountability within the nursing homes, kind of calling each other out, right? Mm-hmm. They want to make sure that if they're part of an industry, that their peers, mm-hmm. holding them accountable, that they're having high quality homes so that it doesn't look like all nursing homes are doing something, they have the ability to hold each other accountable.
Right. I think that's great.
So I want to move us to the next segment of our conversation today, and that's to walk you through some of the new resources on our website. And I think that'll give you a picture also of what we did accomplish. I'm going to roll through these, and Alice, maybe you can talk us through them. I'd also say some of the folks who created these resources are on this call. So if you created one of these resources, like, raise your hand and please pop off mute, and we'd love to kind of get your perspective on them as well. Alice, so our new Taking Action page, which you can find on our website, is divided into 3 sections: pilot projects that we're currently working on right now, a set of promising projects that we're looking to scale and spread, ideally with some new funding and partnerships, and also some policy resources. So I want to start us down at the bottom of the page with policy resources. There are 3 of them. Can you tell us a little bit about what the coalition has been doing when it comes to nursing home policy, and how we're trying to push the envelope when it comes to really proactively thinking about better nursing home infrastructure and oversight?
I'm happy to. So I'm going to do my best to summarize each of these in about 1 sentence. I'm sure I'll fail, but I'm going to try. And I'll just go back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago related to how did these committees, distill down all these recommendations into just sort of one action plan. And these are examples of 3 of the ways that committees tried to do this. So the first one is about nursing home data, ownership data, transparency, and moving from transparency to more accountability. And we literally, Isaac and I were on calls, at least 2 different calls this week, with states and congressional teams. So, again, US senators, policy teams calling us to say, how can we understand this better? And so this is about, what data do we have about nursing home ownership? How can someone who's in the public, who's not one of us, not in this world of nursing homes, how can they understand how to know who owns a nursing home? How do the funds flow? Who's getting the money that's coming in? Where is that going? And what other companies might be receiving that money? And how much is going into resident care and quality of life? So again, that was a little more than 1 sentence, but this is a very hot topic right now. This is a topic that it's not us necessarily making the decision about whether or not to continue with it. We're leveraging where there is interest now at the national level from multiple sources. We were, I don't know if there's anybody from NASHB on the call today, but we do work closely with NASHB, and we were speaking with them this week as well about this topic. So more to come on this. This will be something we're going to keep hearing about, I'm sure, around the country.
Say, just as a last note on this action plan, it really reflects the coalition's values related to collaboration. What we're really advocating for here is an approach to ownership oversight that brings all the many different stakeholders doing this work together, so they're not working inefficiently. They're pooling resources, pooling knowledge, sharing data, and working to move more quickly so that we can really ensure that the owners of nursing homes are held accountable for the quality of care provided in them. What we know is that states often don't have the resources to do the licensure, certification, and auditing work they need to. And we really believe CMS has a role to pull them together to develop a more effective national system. Okay, next, tell us a little bit more about a targeted survey. What is that? Why does it matter? What's the momentum on this nationally?
So one of the things that we've tried to do, and we will continue to do, is listen and really be good listeners and to respond when people are telling us consistently things that are of concern. And this is one of the issues that came up quite a bit in the first 2 years. People expressed concerns about the survey process. Full disclosure, most of you know, I used to be at CMS and was in the Division of Nursing Homes. And so, this is near and dear to my heart. I think it's really hard to write good regulations. And right now it's really hard to have support for surveyors and survey agencies. But in any case, there's been some limited work on how survey agencies can really get through all of the surveys that need to be done in order to promote quality for residents. So this was a committee that worked, and there was a combination of people who were within the nursing home community as senior leaders and former surveyors and consultants, and they all came together along with some people who formerly were at CMS, and they designed a targeted survey process and guide. And so we had that work. We were doing it at the same time that CMS was doing very similar work, and CMS has been working on this for a while, independent of what we were doing. But we brought our results to CMS. We had a conversation with the Division of Nursing Homes, and we sent them this document so that they would know what we had come up with. And right now, CMS is actually testing their version. Some of you on the call may want to comment if you've had this survey done in the nursing homes where you are. So far, the feedback seems to be positive that we've heard. And so we think it's great that CMS is testing this, because it's going to enable CMS to spend more time focused on nursing homes that have a greater need to have surveys done. Maybe they have more complaints, more serious complaints, versus nursing homes that have had a really strong track record for a long time. Isaac, what would you add to that?
Review of this project, and I think as CMS rolls out the pilot of what they're calling a risk-based survey, I think it's really on all of us to keep track of that and to share our perspectives. I think this is an instance, and I think our committee thinks it's an instance where we really need everybody engaged. Right? Providers obviously need to share their experience of the new survey, but residents and care partners also need to share their experience of the new survey, right? If this new survey is shortening conversations between surveyors and residents, that's not going to work either. So really making sure that everybody has a stake at this table to share their perspectives and make sure CMS does this work right is really important to the coalition. So that's terrific. And then finally, talk to us a little bit about HUD. Not a typical nursing home stakeholder as we often think of it, but the coalition has had a little bit of a journey with them. Can you share?
I will share, but I'm going to keep it brief, because if you looked at momentum that Isaac sent out to everybody this morning, he's done a really nice job outlining some of the issues here. But we have Mark Cohen on this call, and Mark may want to speak up as well, because he was one of the co-chairs that did this work. But there is this program within HUD, the 232 program. It has to do with loans that can go out through the HMAC organization, the lenders, to nursing homes, in some cases to do conversions of physical plants to more household type models and other things. And there's some controversy about this program right now in terms of what it can do, what it should do. And so our committee put together, I think, a set of 3 recommendations of ways that the program could enhance what they do now and get to more nursing homes. There's a lot of interest in older buildings being able to convert to more modern, contemporary designs, both in terms of the physical plant and the staffing models as well. So again, I know that's in a nutshell a very complicated topic, but we encourage you to take a look at this document. And if you have other questions about it, certainly reach out to Isaac, and we can put you in touch with the folks from the committee who worked on this. Isaac, what would you add to that?
Just to summarize it, I think the coalition's belief is that to create the change in nursing homes we want to see, we're going to need to invest in nursing homes. There's a big push at the federal level on a lot of other issues to talk about infrastructure, and long-term care and nursing homes are part of infrastructure too. But right now, we're not really thinking necessarily about how to put capital into nursing homes that's really going to create the change we want to see, and that residents and their care partners and the staff who work in them want to see. So this proposal is about taking this fairly infrequently discussed HUD program and trying to leverage it to get capital into the system in a smart way, and in a way that is acknowledging the needs of residents and staff. Okay, so the next place I want to go is to talk a little bit about workforce. Alice, can you tell us about our workforce efforts? We have this resource here that I'd love for you to share about, and also kind of what's to come on the workforce front.
Yeah, so the committee that we had on workforce was co-chaired by Jasmine Travers at NYU and Kezia Scales from PHI, with a lot of input from Jenna Kellerman, formerly at Leading Age, now at PHI, and also Betsy White at Brown, and a really strong team of people. And so some of you are on this call. We're very grateful for your work. This document that the committee put together summarized the work that they did over the 2 years, reaching out to many, many states and trying to figure out what CNA programs are out there for career advancement, and then specifically registered apprenticeship programs, which are just one type of career advancement program. But there's a lot of benefits to registered apprenticeship programs. They're more standardized, they're more portable across different states and different organizations. And they're recognizable as a credential. So based on that, we did a lot of work with the Federal Office of Apprenticeships, State Office of Apprenticeships, and many of you who are on this call. And in terms of our next phase of work, what we realized was that the Geriatric Workforce Enhancement Programs, or GWEPs, a number of you are on this call, and so please unmute yourself and speak up if you'd like to. That the GWEPs are now required to have some sort of registered apprenticeship program, either for direct care workers who are home health aides or community health workers, or CNAs, many of whom work in nursing homes. So we've just started to hear from some of the GWEPs that have an interest in what we can offer in terms of technical assistance. But I just want to recognize the American Geriatric Society. I know I see Jen and Mariana are on this call, so welcome. We're so glad you're here. And we're following along with AGS and the GWEP Coordinating Center that are leading the GWEPs going forward on at least 12 different requirements. This is only one of them. So we're very grateful to be working with AGS and the GWEPs. There'll be more to come. We are going to hear from the GWEPs which ones are planning registered apprenticeship programs that are going to focus on CNAs, and then we'll be part of convenings and part of information sharing and all of that. But we're very grateful, and we think the world of the GWEP program, and really glad to be a part of that. And that's also the GWEP Coordinating Center is also funded by the John A. Hartford Foundation. So I don't know if anybody else raised their hands or wants to speak, or any hands up, Isaac?
Katie, what I will say is that in addition to that tremendous project that we're working on with AGS, this resource is really has a lot of amazing material in it from the committee, and should be helpful when you're communicating with your colleagues in your state. Oftentimes there's a lot of interest in doing work on CNA career development, but not necessarily a roadmap, and not necessarily the ability to get all the right people in the room together. And this resource should be helpful with that. And also the coalition is happy to kind of help coordinate first calls and to help you bring together the right people in your state to start a conversation, if that's what you're looking to do. Okay, so we're going to move us to our last set of new resources here. And Barbara asked to remind us how to access these resources. So they are all on our website. What I'm sharing on my screen right now is our Taking Action page. So if you go to movingforwardcoalition.org and then you click Taking Action at the top, it's all there for you to access, download, share far and wide. We really do want to make these as accessible as possible. So really now to jump into probably our biggest new resource. We want to share 2 guides related to resident agency and nursing homes. One is focusing on how to address residents' goals, preferences, and priorities. And the other is focusing on how to strengthen resident councils. And we think these projects really dovetail with each other because they challenge us to ask, how do we create resident agency both in one's personal life, right, through their goals, preferences, and priorities in care, in terms of promoting privacy, dignity, agency in the way they operate in their nursing home, and then also through community life, right, through resident councils. Residents shouldn't just have agency over their own care, but through the environment and community they live in. And so we've consolidated these 2 resources on one website. You just click Visit Our Guide. And you can go to the homepage, and you can see here we have the 2 guides, one related to resident councils, the other to addressing residents' goals, preferences, and priorities. And you can click into the Explore Principles to either download the full PDF of the guide or get a sense of some of the parts. So you can jump into different sections and also download tools that committee members have developed over the last 2 years to support different types of conversations in your nursing home. But Alice, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how much effort went into developing this guide and how we're going to, make sure it actually works over the next couple of years.
Well, there's a lot of people on this call who worked on this guide and process, by the way. So it's the guide, but it's surrounded by this beautiful process that's laid out here. I know Alyssa Tagg just chatted in, and I know Frank Dornfest has been involved, and many of you on this call, because we had 3 committees that were all working on this together. And, what we benefited from was there were very strong opinions about like how much do we need to have a training component for the nursing home teams so that they really know how to do this the way it's intended, in terms of there has to be a process for asking people about their goals. Who asks that? Where do they document it? How do they document it? Who reads it? Can everybody access that information? And these are, just kind of how you get started, what Isaac's showing you now, getting started. And then, the instructions are very, very detailed. And again, Isaac and I didn't do that. You guys did that, the people on the committees. We certainly want to recognize Lacey Cornelison, who is not here today because she was giving a talk on this in Texas to a huge group. So we're grateful for many of you who are giving talks around the country, but Lacey's with Kansas State University, and she will be leading this project going forward. There's going to be a pilot with 5 nursing homes in Kansas, greater Kansas, and she's working with a lot of partner organizations. So we're really excited about testing this guide and process. Again, we're always saying to people, it's not perfect yet. We don't claim it's perfect, but we think it's in a good enough place that it's ready to pilot and continue the work that the group has done so well on this. So I'll stop and maybe turn it over to Marie to walk us through the resident council guide, because I know it's 3:45 my time. So I want to make sure we have time for discussion. Marie, maybe over to you.
Thank you. So, strengthening resident councils. This group was extremely dynamic, and I'm so impressed with where we were able to take this. We spent the first 2 years kicking this off, really started with doing the research. We took time to look at what was out there currently, and there's not much. There wasn't much for either residents or administration and care team members. And that was challenging to understand, because this has been a requirement for a very long time. I expected in doing that research to find a lot more comprehensive information. What we did find is that there was information out there from the National Consumer Voice, some state ombudsman's offices, but we wanted to bring something together in a more cohesive way that included lots of options for people. And so we took our base out of the Kansas guide, and from that we supplemented with a lot of that information from Texas, Pennsylvania, I think Michigan, lots of other states, care partners, residents were involved. And when we put it together, we then gave it out to people to give feedback. And from that, we made adjustments and changes to it, had a lot of different individuals look at it to ensure that we took into account DEI and wanted to make sure that it was accessible for people. So you see Isaac typing into it. And so we then piloted it in 4 nursing homes in New Jersey. And we had individuals from the QIO, the Ombudsman's Office, researchers, can't even think of everybody that was involved, work with us in order to kick that off. The associations in New Jersey, the state agencies, coming together to say, okay, we're going to trial this. It was trialed, we got feedback, but it was a very short trial. It was only a couple of months, and it's hard to really implement something, start using it, and get feedback when you only have a few months to do that. And so we were thrilled to hear that the Johnny Hartford Foundation wanted us to continue with this work, because we really believe in it and think that this is a way to really enhance the quality of both living in and working in nursing homes. And so for that reason, we are now going to do a 3-year pilot here in Connecticut. So I'm very excited about that. I know that we have some of our partners on here, and I have to say that we've had an overwhelming response. It's going to be hard because we've had so many buildings that want to participate that we're going to have to do a selection process and really look at how we bring people into the pilot, but we also want to support everyone using this. So we're coming up with sort of a twofold approach in having a targeted focus on the pilot, but I really believe we're going to get this out to, and we're going to see this being used in almost all of the nursing homes here in Connecticut, just by the response that we've had from the corporate offices. So that to me is very exciting. So that's what we're going to be doing over the next 2 years. We're supposed to have everyone sort of engaged. We want to have the buildings for the pilot identified by the end of November. We've had many people step forward that want to be coaches in the buildings. So along with my team members going in and supporting the resident councils, we've had other professionals come forward and say that they want to be the coaches. We've identified a state liaison that I'm extremely excited to partner with, and I think she'll do a great job in working with our long-term care communities. She's worked with them in the past. And then also be a resource, again, to the overarching larger group of nursing homes. Throughout the next 18 months, we're going to be doing those resident council meetings, supporting and looking for information and feedback that then we'll have a study done the 3rd year. And from that, hopefully we gain information to continue to adjust and adapt the guide to be the best resource for individuals in these settings. I forgot, we're starting by adjusting the guide. So we got a lot of feedback from the first pilot and individuals who worked with it and have seen it. And so we're taking this next month and a half to make some adjustments, include information and feedback that they gave us. And the most up-to-date version is what we will use in the pilot for those 18 months in the nursing home. And after that time, we'll work to, again, tweak it. And hopefully this is something that we'll be able to push out and see used across the country.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we're going to take the slides down in a sec, but we just wanted to point out there are places on the website where you can give feedback. It says share your feedback. So we want your feedback on the guides and the processes. So that this is what it looks like, the feedback form. So please do send that in. So we wanted to make sure we have time for some discussion. I know we have 12 minutes left, so we're back to seeing everybody. And we have a few things in the chat, I know, so we want to make sure that we can answer those questions. Julie asked about CMP grant programs for funding some of the pilots. That's a long question to answer because it kind of depends on what state you're in and the status of CMPs and who approves them at the regional offices, et cetera. But it is a good question. We get that question a lot. The CMP program has changed a bit, so it kind of depends on some of those things. Chris Miller said she's including a resident GP as a GPP. The resident GPP is a resource in the course that she's teaching. So that's an integration of some of what we're doing, in nursing homes with academic programs. That's great. And I think those are the key things. I said a little bit in the beginning about personal stories, and this is why we're going to go to discussion because we want to hear your stories. But I do want to just recognize Patty Moore, who is on this call, and Patty and I have worked on a number of projects, but she's somebody who has a lot of experience with, getting some really innovative things done on Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts with nursing homes. So she's an example of what many of you, show us, which is, boy, never give up and just sustainability over time and a big group that's come together. So I want to recognize her as an example of so many personal stories. So Isaac, I'll turn it back to you to see who you're unmuting, who would like to contribute things here.
Please jump in and raise your hand or add more to the chat. We'd love to answer any and all questions. I know that's a lot to digest, and there is more there. So I hope you'll take the time to look at the website yourself and reach out to us with any questions. Thoughts, questions, comments?
Anybody who's been part of these processes, any of our committee co-chairs or members or work group members, and anybody at all, please feel free to chime in with your thoughts. Oh, Mark and
Patty.
Hands up. Okay, Patty.
Patty, you should be able to unmute yourself now if you click unmute.
Please, Mark, go ahead. My question had to do with the extraordinary work that Mark is just beginning, I believe, in a contract to look at the financing of the middles, which I think we are all going to stub our toes on if we don't solve it. So, Mark, onward, please.
Thanks. So yeah, I wanted to make just a point related to the work that we did. Then when Alice and Isaac were talking about the HUD work, one of the things that I learned through this process is that, you know, somebody has to plant the seed, and sometimes takes a long time for the tree to grow. And I may not even be here when it's finally up there. But I think this is the case with HUD. I think our major contribution, or the major contribution of the coalition, was to frame their work in a way that I think the civil servants there are not used to seeing it, maybe even some of the political appointees. And it's going to take a while to have a symbolic transformation where people there view part of their role as being an element of transformation in this industry. We didn't succeed in yet, but it's out there, and we've publicized it, and we've got people that know about us in the coalition, and especially the lenders who view us as they view us as an entity that is an ally. So for those of us who, are sort of not moving on with this because we've done it as far as we can, I think, and there are probably other groups as well, that it is important to just plant the seed and, declare victory and keep watering it. And who knows how long it's going to take, but I found the process to be very, it was a good process, very meaningful. And so even if you don't get the concrete result that you're looking for, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value.
Thank you. You put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that. And as you said, we're going to continue. We're going to continue speaking up on a lot of things. One of the sort of summarizing themes for us, I think, is we've really tried to, create the voice of the coalition and of all of you. And we want to continue to do that and really focus even more on some policy issues. We're going to, it's an election year, so there's going to be a lot of changes after November. And so we want to continue to think together about prioritizing where we can have impact, what makes a difference, what's important, and how we can really amplify the voice of this group in important ways, and particularly, again, with people in Congress, people in state legislature, and other ways that we can do that together. We can really strengthen our voice by doing it together. So I just wanted to amplify that. Thanks, you guys, for speaking up. Other folks, other ideas. Is there anything we did not talk about that we should have? Anything from the last 2 years or the next 3 years that you'd like to see us focus on? Charlie.
Yeah, this is actually off most of the topics we've been discussing, but it's something that's locally is becoming something of great interest here that I'm involved in. I'm in Northern Virginia, and that is the creation of community advisory councils to nursing homes. I'm just wondering if anybody there's not a lot written on that, a little bit, but I was just wondering if that's something that is of interest that is worth looking at some point.
So I don't know if Mairead wants to answer that. We had some conversations early on with the committee that Mairead and Anna Fisher co-chaired about resident councils. And then we talked about family councils. And then we talked about PFACs, patient and family councils in hospitals. And we talked with some folks who've done some work in California on sort of combined, resident and family councils. But I think that's a little different from what you're talking about with community councils. So I don't know if anybody else on the call wants to respond, or Mairead, your thoughts on that. Oh, you
So
have-
council, am I unmuted? Okay, so councils in general, so the resident councils, we think is really important for them to be pure and the residents and that they get to direct it, right? And invite who they want to invite. But I totally see the value in having other people know what's going on and what's happening related to any long-term care continuum, right? You want to have as many support agents that you can, as well as a family council. So I think there could be opportunity when, and in certain settings, you might have the resident council say that on a quarterly basis, maybe they want to meet with, in conjunction with the family council, and maybe a greater council from the town or the community, because I'm hoping that someday I really envision that individuals living in nursing homes, we won't just see them as residents of nursing homes, they're still members of our greater community. And they're going to the senior center and they're participating in any way possible, and that the community still sees them and their value and what they bring forward, and that the community members will want to come in and support them around local voting, things like that. And how do we really continue to engage them from a community setting, and the community council coming in, maybe they do their meetings at the local nursing home so that individuals can continue to participate. I think it's a great idea, but I do really feel that there's a value in residents and the privacy of just having the ability to meet alone at times, or with that one care partner, the trusted, valued care partner, and then bringing their issues and concerns forward otherwise.
Great. Well, as you can tell from this call, we still have a lot to do. So, Margaret, you can be our last commenter, and then we'll wrap it up. So, please go ahead.
Well, I'm so impressed at the multi-state national side of all this, coming as I do from Dignity Alliance Massachusetts, which is a wonderful organization focused on Massachusetts. I guess the specific problem we have is that so many nursing homes are closing, and a lot of them are bad and they should close, but of course it's a disaster, and they're closing in places where we're going to have nursing home deserts. So I think the financing issue is extremely important, and the people we want to come in are the greenhouse people and the people who are nonprofit. So I'm wondering, I know you said there's so much more to say about financing, but are you hearing from senators that they are interested in this? I mean, what gives you any hope that this will change?
So, yes, we are. I'm so glad you made this comment. Yes, we are hearing from senators, and we're hearing from state legislators as well as national, people in Congress. We've spoken to, Senator Casey's team, Senator Gillibrand's team, Senator Warren's team, and a few others. So we'll continue to do that. Financing is an absolutely central issue, and we do want to make progress and contribute in a positive way to that. And people are very concerned about nursing homes closing, no question about it, and nursing home deserts. So, so thank you for mentioning that. We do have people from the Greenhouse and Pioneer Network and Live Oak, part of the coalition and leading some of the work. So we're grateful for that.
Alice, can I jump in on that for a
One
second?
quick, go ahead.
I just want to answer that too, because I have
Very quickly.
very strong feelings about that here. Just that we want to make sure that the money is going to good money, right? Bad money after bad money. We have very old buildings here in Connecticut, and what we see is we're constantly trying to keep up with them. And so it almost feels like we're just putting Band-Aids on. So ensuring that there's a way to lift the moratorium on beds here and get new, fresh homes that have technology and things that'll support the caregivers and the residents in those homes, I think is really important.
Thank you. Mark.
So I've been working with Congressman Swazi for a good number of years and he introduced the bill before he decided to run for governor of New York. He's back in Congress, and he's going to be reintroducing his bill with some co-sponsors, the WISH Act, which would, if passed, provide a new financing source for long-term services and supports, not just nursing homes, but for all of them.
Well, thank you. And I know that Senator Moore, before he had to drop off from the Dignity Alliance, did talk about and chatted in about the bill in Massachusetts that was just passed, a long-term care bill. So people can look that up as well if they're interested. Jane Carmody will give you the last word here to send us off into the next 3 years of our work together. So please let us know your thoughts.
Oh, Alice, nothing else to say, but just as you've already said, appreciation, appreciation, appreciation. Look at where we are and where we're going. And as you said many times, Alice, much more to do, but I just think we're just proud of this work. And thank you very much. That's the best I can say from my heart is thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And Isaac, do you want to close us out?
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Jane. Thanks everyone for joining us. Please do share these resources with your communities. We hope they're helpful to nursing homes, to residents, to care partners, to staff, to policymakers across the country. And we hope you'll share feedback with us as you try them out. Please stay involved in the conversation with us. Mairead's going to lead a much deeper dive into the Resident Councils project on September 11th through the same forum. Doug Pace, who was on this call or may still be, is going to talk in December about the work on surveyor training on person-centered care, which we didn't even get to start to talk about today. And we have much more to talk about with you all over the course of the coming years. So thank you so much. We'll stick on the chat because I see Nancy has her hand up and maybe we can field that last comment, but we understand that a lot of you may have to go through the hour.
One more person, which we didn't yet, which is Sumeri Maki, was our associate director for the last year and helped me and Isaac in more ways than we could ever list. But many of you worked with Sumeri and she's doing well and says hello. And so we just wanted to thank her for all of her work. So we'll be glad to stay on for anybody who wants to continue to speak with us. And thank you all very, very much. Bye, Mark.